All right. Welcome. I believe we are live. Let me make sure. Yes, we are. We are running live. Welcome to the latest edition of Terrible Towel Tuesday. I am your host, SimFBallCritic, and give me a bare minute here. Just give me a quick second, guys. Bear with me for a second. Let me get everything up and rolling. Send the link out to a few special people like I always do. And then we're going to get into it. We're going to get it cracking. What's happening? Hope everybody is good. Training camp, we there. We are here, baby. It is training camp for the Pittsburgh Steelers at Latrobe. For you guys that don't know, that's where they do it at, in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Not too far from Pittsburgh. But we about to make this thing happen, man. Let me send this link out to a few special folks. And then we will get it rolling. But how's everybody doing this lovely Tuesday? How's everybody doing tonight? Hope everybody's well. I hope you've been following up on your Steeler news. And for some of you guys, man, I'm fortunate and humbled that some of you guys only come to me to get your information. So, hey, if you're here for that, appreciate it very much. One more second, guys, and I promise I'll be ready to go. All right. There we are. So what's happening, everybody? What's going on, man? Everybody good? We're going to do the roll call really quick. Y'all know we like to do the roll call for about 30 seconds, and then after that, we keep it moving. But really quick, man, for you newcomers, my boy Dez in the building. He talking about Lamar. For you guys that don't know what he's talking about Lamar Jackson. My good buddy there is a Ravens fan, and it's all love, man. It's all good. Extortion, Tyrese, man, HD, Rob Dilla, Hack Rick. I don't think I've seen your name before, so I appreciate you coming through. You said Happy Taco Tuesday. Funny story. The wife made tacos tonight for Taco Tuesday. Fun guy, Jason Winningham. Why Diggy? What's up, Why Diggy? My man Patrick Covington is in the building. Laquan Lighty, Glennis66, Jared Devil, Clifton Millender, and Luis D, which is I believe is Luis Devalia, Eli, and we'll stop it right there. All right, and we'll go ahead and get into it, man. So like I said, there's Patrick Covington again. Now I'm guessing this is Patrick Covington Sr. So welcome, sir. Appreciate you coming by, and this is wonderful that both you and your son, are fans of mine. I am extremely humbled by that. But yeah, guys, let's get it. Let's talk a little bit of Pittsburgh Steelers, man. Like I said, I'm gonna sit back for a quick second, try to let a few more people get up in here, and then we'll get it rolling. For you guys that want to call in tonight, man, phone number is on the screen there, but I will roll it off to you as well. Area 619-924-0818. You guys know the routine. You call in, keep it to about 2 minutes. I know sometimes some guys go a little past that, but we want to kind of keep it around that 2-minute range, man, because again, I think things into existence. I believe this is going to grow. I believe, especially once the season starts, there's going to be mad people calling, because you guys remember one show I had and it was call after call after call. So because of that, we're going to have to put a time restraint on it just so we can get through all of the calls. And again, these shows are designed to be minimum 30 minutes or less, depending on what we're talking about, maximum 45. So because of the time constraints, just keep the calls short. I want to hear your opinions, but keep them short. So all right, man, let's jump right into it, man. First thing we're going to talk about, of course, as you see in the description, I'll just read it off. I definitely want to talk about the shining stars so far at training camp and what we're hearing. Mike Tomlin's contract extension, Stephon Tuitt contract extension, as well as we'll talk a little bit of injury report. And then after that, I'll probably do those things first, and then we'll talk about the shining stars so far. And then, that'll be it. I'll take a few calls. I'll see what you guys got in the chat, and then we out of here. So first up, let's talk Mike Tomlin first. And before we do that, I don't know if you guys saw it, man, but Bill Cowher was elected to be in the Ring of Honor, or whatever they call it at Heinz Field, for the Steelers. And I'm cool with that. You guys know or you should know by now, I've said it several times, I love Coach Cowher. I like both of our coaches. I like Cowher and I like Tomlin. I like them equally. I like what each one of them do for the team or has done for the team in their own way. Cowher seemed to be more of a take no nonsense type of guy because of his demeanor and the snarl. You see all of that in the chin. You see all that all up in people's face, but he was a loving coach as well. Tomlin is more perceived as a guy who, behind closed doors, a lot of teams team members, players. I couldn't even get the right name out. A lot of the players seem to think that Tomlin, is a disciplinarian of sorts, but we don't always see that. I mean, a bad example of that would be what happened with Antonio Brown. It looks like he abused the leniency that he gives the players, and he's more perceived as the players' coach. But again, like I said, I like both of those guys for what they both bring to the table. That's just my personal opinion on it. So I'm happy that Bill Cowher, we definitely should be recognizing him as a member of the Hall. So there you have it. Now let's get into Mike Tomlin. So how do you guys feel about that, man? Mike Tomlin gets a coaching extension, only 1 year. A lot of times when they do extensions with Tomlin, it's generally about 2 years. And it made me think at first. I thought about it. I said, let me see. What does this mean? Are the Rooneys trying to tell us something? Those are reports are out there that minority owners didn't want Tomlin to be renewed. We saw the same report last year when minority owners, thought he should be fired. That's nothing new. But it makes me wonder. At first I thought maybe they were trying to give him a message or light a fire under him. But I got to put things in perspective. He was already under contract for this year and next. So with doing a 1 year extension, he basically has 3 more seasons. And we don't know, the logistics of it. It could be Tomlin that's saying, well, let's kind of take things slow, because supposedly what we're hearing, again, this is just hearsay, but supposedly what we're hearing about Kevin Colbert is the arrangement is basically, him and Art Rooney will decide on a year-to-year basis whether Colbert wants to stay around. So you never know. It could be one of those situations where Tomlin, maybe he's the one that's kind of like, we'll see. Who knows? Or I am definitely not opposed to them saying, look, we're going to give you this 3 years while Big Ben is still there. You guys pretty much have been linked at the hip. This is our last opportunity, you would think, as far as having a championship window. Wouldn't surprise me at all if that's how they're feeling. So either way, we'll never know the answer. We can sit here and speculate. I know some of you guys probably in the comments are going to do that. We'll never know the answer, guys. So really what I wanted to discuss, man, is, listen, I like Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin is a good coach. I challenge anybody to go out there and find another coach right now that you think will take the Steelers and get them over the hump, better than Mike Tomlin would at this moment. Any other coach that you could think about is already with their team. When the new young hot stud and McVay, he's already with a team. The old wise one and Bill Belichick, he's already with a team. Even another semi-new gun in a Doug Peterson, being more, let's just play it by ear. They kind of play it by the seat of their pants, man, how they play ball, and especially how they won the Super Bowl, and he's already with a team. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I just don't know who the other coach is that would come in and it's going to take us to the Super Bowl. Just like that. Yeah, I just don't see it. Yeah, it could be some young talent in the college rankings. It could be somebody on somebody else's staff, that's not the head man. I don't know. All I'm saying is I think Tomlin has been a solid coach in the NFL, if not one of the best coaches in the NFL. Of course, there's things we can knock on him. There's things we can knock on all of these coaches. He has his positives. He has his negatives. But I think, the success proves itself that he is a good coach. So I am not upset at all with the extension, and I understand how the Steelers do business. And it's not that difficult, to understand that if you really follow the team like you say you do. Now, speaking of doing business, obviously we knew that this was going to happen. We knew there were going to be a couple players that could be in the rankings or in the runnings for getting their contract restructured. You know, you could have thought possibly Cam Hayward. You could think possibly a Joe Hayden extension. That might still happen since he's on his last year. And then you could have thought perhaps a Stephon Tuitt. Now, that's the same reason why I don't know why so many people were panicking about the cap structure. Y'all know how the Steelers do business. You know they're going to go into the season with a certain amount of reserves. And usually if they've, bumped up close to the max in terms of the space, they generally find another way to do it. I don't always agree with contract restructures because it could come back to, to haunt you later. But that's how the Steelers have done things. If they get very close to the cap and they need some room, they generally find somebody that they can restructure where it doesn't change too much in terms of out of pocket and things like that. But it does give you cap space back. So rough numbers right here, man. And I got this from, Dave Bryan. Shout outs to Dave Bryan for SteelersDepot.com. Shout outs to him and Alex Kazor. I know Alex actually chimes in sometimes, and I really appreciate that. He knows how much of a fan I am of his work and Dave's work. So to see that reciprocated, wonderful. But Dave Bryan did some rough calculations, and basically right now, as it stands right now, the Steelers are roughly at $4.8 million, under the cap max. So right about what they like to do, pretty much close to where they like to go into the season, usually about $4 to $5 million. And it still leaves some possible room if they have to snag somebody late, a tight end of sort gets cut, and we got to grab a tight end or something like that. Still leaves us that flexibility. So don't be surprised if something else happens. Perhaps the Joe Hayden contract deal gets done, because I think they feel comfortable with what Hayden has done, especially last season. And I think with having a veteran like that and having a lot of young guys on the roster, you're going to need to keep a guy like that in the building, man, even past his prime. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a 2-year or so extension of Joe Hayden. Wouldn't bother me at all, especially if he has a solid season this year. So the next thing let's talk about, let's see what else I got on my list here. Let's get into the injury report. Sean Davis, supposedly, from the last report I heard is that they thought it was a broken finger, but they're saying that it may just be a dislocation. So Sean Davis has been sidelined for a while, and Cameron Kelly, has been the number 2 guy. We're going to talk a little more about that when I talk about shining stars so far. And then there's Moncrief. Apparently a couple days ago, or it might have been yesterday's session, he got a jammed finger or something like that, and, they're reporting that it might be just a dislocation, nothing serious, but, keep a little eye on that. But then the biggest news, man, and I don't think it's news because it's, it's before camp even started, but TJ Watt started off on the active PUP list, and that's basically the active physically unable to perform list. And that's because he had tightness in his hamstring. So I don't think there's anything to worry about. And I'm sorry for all this noise, guys. Y'all hear this chair squeaking? It's time to get a new office chair, right? But I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, we kind of dealt with that with TJ last year, having some hamstring tightness and things like that. So not a big deal. Of course, you want to keep your eye on all of these guys, but for the most part, the Steelers are pretty healthy coming out of the first day of tackling, and they've tackled now for 3 days. They had the Sunday session yesterday and then today, and they're off. No, they were off today, if I'm not mistaken. So they had 2 days of tackle, off today, and then they'll be back at it Wednesday. So considering that they put the pads on, and nobody's really, really banged up, good to hear. Very good to hear. So, all right, man, let's get into a couple guys, man, who are shining and some of the guys who might not be shining, at training camp. And I'll start with, the somewhat shining, and then we'll get to the guys whose names are really jumping out and all of the reports. Devin Bush, they're saying that Devin Bush is being, what you would expect. He's showing his speed, showing his splash. He's been in opportune situations to get interceptions, and I think he said he dropped one. Want to see that cleaned up a bit, but he has some pass breakups already, and he's flying across the field. And from what people are saying, listening to Alex Kazor and a couple other beat writers that I know that were out there, nothing to write home about yet. Again, it's only been 2 days, but he's being what you would expect him to be. His speed is showing up, and again, already in position to get a pass breakup or a couple interceptions. Sounds really, really good to me. Now, let me tell you about another guy that they keep saying is having a great camp, which we hear this every single year. Y'all ready for this? You ready? Artie Burns. Apparently, Artie Burns has been doing very well so far, but again, this is nothing new. And speaking of Artie Burns and the way the Steelers do business, let me kind of reference that really quick too. It's almost clear to me now that Artie Burns is going to make the roster. And I know a lot of you guys are not going to be happy about that, but we got to look at it from a historical standpoint and a depth standpoint. Okay, the Steelers are fairly thin at cornerback, right? We got Joe Hayden, who is an aging veteran, even though he played solid. You got Steven Nelson, who is your veteran that's in his prime, still new to the organization and that defense. You got Mike Hilton, who pretty much his primary spot is in the slot, or perhaps he could play some safety, but that doesn't matter when we're talking about corners. Okay, you got Cam Sutton, who has played, but he hasn't flashed, and it seems like his best position as well is on the outside rather than the slot. Okay, then who's behind that? You got Justin Lane, who is a rookie draft pick, okay, converted receiver. We still have to see how he shows up in terms of in the NFL. Preseason will tell us a lot with a guy like that. Not hearing too much about him right now. And then who else is it? Brian Allen. No disrespect to Brian Allen, but if you're sitting there, right, and you're trying to figure out who's going to be the sixth cornerback, you're probably going to go with the number one pick that you would hate to cut. You know, they don't have a history of cutting the number one picks until they play out their contract. I mean, look at the recent years. Your Jarvis Jones of the world, and even Bud Dupree, and fifth-year option with him. I mean, it's just traditionally they haven't done that. And then who's behind him? You know, the Herb Waters guy and the Alexander Myers kid that they got as a UDFA, and they supposedly he hasn't even practiced yet as far as, you know, tackles, and it's very likely that Artie Burns is going to make it. And listen, man, as much as Artie Burns gets on my nerves, if Artie Burns somehow has the season of his life in his capacity, because he's not going to be a starter, but if he happens to be able to help us out in sub-package or whatever, I'm all for it. You know, that's what I don't get about some of us Steelers fans when we get down on a player. It's like he can't do nothing for us anymore. Nah, I disagree with that totally. Hold on, guys. Something just caught my eye here. All right. I think we're good now. I disagree with that totally, man. That if he can help us, he can help us. You feel me? If he can help us, let him help us. So that's just how I feel about that whole situation. But it looks like he's going to be on the roster. Now, who else we want to talk about, man? Let's talk about somebody else who's not doing that good. We're hearing bad things about Josh Dobbs. We're hearing that Mason Rudolph is probably going to end up being the number 2. And again, it's early, but we know how these trends go. You know, it's going to take a mega day for some of these guys to get out of the spot that they're currently in terms of depth chart. There's only 15 practices in training camp for the most part. Your preseason games will start up next week. So everything is like rapid fire. So if Josh Dobbs is already missing wide open receivers from what I'm hearing, it's probably going to be Mason Rudolph, and I'm not hearing glowing reviews about him either. They're just saying that he's having the better of the two. So there you are for you guys who are down on Josh Dobbs. Now the next thing I wanted to talk about, hold on guys, give me a second, man. I got somewhat of a new setup. There we go. I just want to make sure I got my time and everything together. Who else we want to talk about? So let's talk about some guys that we're hearing about this doing some decent things. Cameron Kelly. They're saying Cameron Kelly is out there doing it. You know, looking very good, looking sharp. You know, they're playing him in the slot and at safety. You know, he has that flexibility, and you know how valuable that can be in defense. Very interesting, man, because remember when we signed the AAF guys, I was one of the main ones saying, these dudes are just roster spots. But listen, early on in the process, when Sean Davis took a day off or what have you, it was Cameron Kelly over Jordan Dangerfield in terms of being the backup free safety. And now he's getting the number 1 reps as well, with Davis being sidelined, with the dislocated finger. That's very interesting. Sounds like he clearly has a path to the 53-man roster. So let's keep our eyes on that. And then also, man, we'll go ahead and end it with this. And I know I'm missing a few people, but I don't have notes on everybody. Our boy Ola Adeni. Reports are coming out saying that he is having a phenomenal start to the first 2 days of camp in terms of in the pads, where they're saying that dudes can barely block him. And he's really flashing. I mean, you've even heard Tomlin in his press conferences after the training camp practices glowing about him. I mean, Tomlin don't usually do things like that. Could this be the guy, man, that's just been waiting in the wings? And it could be that diamond in the rough, so to speak, that can add that different element of pass rush. If Bud Dupree, obviously, if there's no re-signing of him next year, could he be the guy that steps right in opposite of TJ? We'll see. I'm very excited about Adeni, man, because we saw what he did in preseason last year, and we saw his capability and how he kind of reminds you of Harrison and his stature and the number he wears, obviously. I'm kind of excited, man, to see what this dude can do. I'm really excited about that. So, and I'm also still excited to see what's going to happen, man, with the inside linebacker position, because the more and more I think about it, I think we got a pretty solid core, rotation of 3. I could foresee a situation possibly where the starters could end up being Bush and Vince, with Barron coming in rotation or maybe sub package. I could kind of see that. I could probably see that more so than Barron and Bush together. Because you got to, I think if we get back into more base, where we're not running a dime as much, still sub package, but we're not primarily playing in dime like we did last year to try to overcompensate. Now we have some serviceable inside linebackers, at least 3 of them. Gives you more flexibility where you could keep 2, linebackers on the field for run support. I think we could very well see Vince and Bush more than Bush and Barron, but it all depends. It's very early. But I'm starting to feel pretty decent about that group, man. And we are also hearing Ulysses Grant is showing some promise. It's early, only 2 days, but he's showing some splash. I heard 3 different reporters say that, so he must be doing something. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting watching these preseason games, to say the least. And I've talked for about 20 minutes, guys. So let's go ahead and get to the phone lines and see if anybody's out there. We do got 3 phone calls. So again, guys, keep it short, 2 minutes. And we will get each one of you guys in for the most part. We're going to come to area code 973 first. Give me just a second. Area code 973, you're live. What you got for us?
Sim, what's going on, brother? How you doing? This is Jay Will.
Jay Will, what's up, man? I'm good.
Yeah, man, I just been paying attention to a lot of things too. Like you were saying, basically you took the words out of my mouth. Cameron Kelly, Sim, I think Cameron Kelly might be one of them Mike Hilton type of things, man. It's still early.
Yeah.
But the way they saying he being versatile, how he playing the slot and he playing free safety since since Davis went down with the little finger.
Yeah, that's key.
I think he gonna make the 53-man roster, man. Honestly, if I had to bet my money on it, I think it's a good 60-40%. And the things I'm hearing about Ola, man, how he going outside and inside, how he just the hand usage.
Yeah.
How he smacking hands down and spinning, get the. I like that, man, because if he could flash this year and show up this year, we don't forget about Bud Dupree. He might be gone when you sit back and think about it. Bud Dupree might be gone. Because what we going to do with him? This is last year. We picked up the 5th-year option. Even if he have a good year, come on, all-pro year, that's the only way Pittsburgh might sign him to another deal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, I like what I'm seeing. I'm hearing some good things about Benny Snell too, brother.
Oh yeah. See, I knew I was gonna forget somebody. Yeah, I heard that.
As far as the blocking. So it's still early. I'm hearing some good things, man. Hopefully we can get healthy. Everybody seeing they coming up with a finger or a hamstring. Even Hope got the hamstring.
Yeah.
But it's still early in the process, man. I like what I'm seeing, man. You know what I mean? But like I said, man, a lot of people not thinking about how we might be, we might be running the ball depending on our defense this year, man. I don't know why they think Juju going to put his numbers up, and we're going to spread the ball around everybody, but we're going to have to run that ball better, man. You can say what you want about Mr. Big Chest, but he came through in a clutch.
He did.
We shot some unproven commodities right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying they can't do it, but they unproven. So, I feel good about it, though, man. I'm going to let you go ahead and, finish what you was doing and take some more calls. But, man, that's how I feel about it. That's far, Sam. We only a couple practices in deep.
I know. We overzealous, but, it's always good, man, to see what guys are doing early. I like that. I like that dude that looked good early. To me, that sounds like that's a good trend. Rather than somebody that has to gradually get better. Wouldn't you prefer the dude who come out the gate looking good first day of tackling? Like that clip floating around that Mark Barron knocked the snot out of, what's the dude named Christian Scotland Williamson? I mean, this dude is running straight up at 6'9", and I love that. I need to see that first day. All right, next caller, man, area code 484. You alive. What you got for us tonight?
What's going on, Sim? It's Steel Jedi.
Jedi, what's up, man?
Can you hear me? I'm sorry the last couple of times my mic has been kind of screwy, so I want to make sure you can hear me okay.
Oh, yeah, you good now. Now I'll check with the chat. Y'all let me know whether or not y'all can hear him good.
All right. Well, getting into what I wanted to get into, we already knew that Benny Snell was going to go off this year in training camp. But there's one guy on the offense that I'm really looking forward to because of the health concerns with Dante Moncrief. His entire career, he's had health concerns. Okay, the guy that I'm hearing a lot of really good things about this year at training camp has been Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
Now remember, Deontay Johnson isn't the tallest guy. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the strongest guy. But he's an incredible route runner with solid hands. I remember watching a clip of him versus Brian Allen. Now, granted, that's a little bit of a mismatch because of the height versus the speed, okay? But he turned Brian Allen around.
I saw that.
And caught the ball 10 yards down the field. In front of him, 10 yards in front of Brian Allen. And he's been tearing up camp the past 2 days. Not today, obviously, because they had their vets day, or their day off, the training camp day that they always take off during the first week. But during 7 shots, he's had a couple of really nice plays. But there is one guy that I kind of was surprised by. I know Ola Adini was going to play well because I saw what I saw last year in preseason. Okay, Bud Dupree's going to play well this year. He's really been working. He worked out at Bomarito's this offseason, which is the same place that Connor works out and Bell used to work out. Okay, and he also worked with Chuck Smith, who is known as the sack whisperer or the outside linebacker guru. He's trained guys like Aaron Donald, DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller. The list goes on and on and on. So he's really been working this offseason, and if Ola Adini could be that third outside linebacker, that's a good problem to have. But the one guy that I was shocked to see how he's performing is Cameron Sutton. Okay, Cam Kelly's played well, but Cameron Sutton has had 5 or 6 interceptions in the past, 2 or 3 days, and everybody already thought that he was a bust because the injury that he sustained in college that really knocked him back a few years. But remember, before that injury, when he was at Tennessee, before the injury, he was being looked at as a first-round corner. Okay? So don't forget about Cameron Sutton, especially for depth. I'm loving what I'm seeing from these guys at camp. Can't wait. Can't wait to see the rest of the week. I'm going to be out at training camp on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh,
so
cool.
If anybody's going to be out there, I'd love to meet up.
Oh, man. Well, definitely, man. We're going to be depending on Jedi. Appreciate your call, Jedi, but get some intel for us. I thought I was going to make it up this year. I might still. I mean, I'm not that far away. I mean, it's like 3 hours. I might still do it, You know, maybe Leonard and I, or maybe Tony, if he gets the chance, maybe one Saturday practice, if we could try to catch one of those. I'm definitely going to a game this year, but Jedi, we're going to need some intel from you live and in color, so we'll be looking forward to next week's Cerebral Tile Tuesday, so you can, you know, bless us with your intel on that Tuesday. So, yeah, looking forward to that. But, yeah, man, I forgot a couple of those names, so let me say that real quick, and then we'll grab the next two callers. Benny Snell, we're hearing good things about him. He's having a little more burst than people thought. Pass pro. And, yeah, like you said, Cam Sutton getting some interceptions, playing a lot on the outside. And here's one other thing about Artie Burns. They're saying that Artie Burns is actually working on the left side instead of the right side. So it's almost like they're priming him to be a replacement or, you know, for Joe Hayden, if Joe Hayden was to go down, or just having flexibility of playing on both sides. I know. Those two words, a lot of you guys don't want to hear it. Artie Burns, but I'm just saying some differences there. And I don't know if it's not like what we did with TJ and Bud last year where you obviously seemed like you switch them and things worked a little better. I don't know if that's the same with cornerbacks. I mean, obviously, you know, the hash marks and all that are a little different. But if he wasn't that great at the right side, I don't think he's going to be much greater on the left side, but I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully he could do something, man. Next call, area code 412. You are live. What you got for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hey, Sim. Like the last two callers took all my points on Benny Snell and Deontay Johnson. So, yeah. They kind of ruined that. But I was thinking about somebody that is kind of under the radar. Made a few plays with the second team. Deontay Spencer, the punt returner from the CFL.
Yeah.
He can basically, you can only evaluate him in game situations for the returns. But I'm looking at his highlights for the Red Blacks. That man got some speed. He's short, and I heard every deep pass, he hasn't caught nothing from Ben, but from the backups, he caught him in stride, and he has a lot of speed on him. I think he ran like a 4.2. So I'm looking at him as somebody. And if he is a good punt returner, I think Swisher's in trouble. Because I don't see no use for Swisher. Unless Ben likes him. I think Ben likes him. But other than that, Swisher's in trouble with. Because it looks like Eli's running with the first team over him, putting Swisher in gadgets in the backfield, and I don't like that look. I think Swisher's in trouble if Spencer can return punts.
Yeah,
That's what it's looking like to me.
Make a good point.
This is, I think, yeah, and this is also a big point. I know they talked about on the Terrible Podcast. They've been continuing to talk about this player's contract. It's not Hayden. I think it's more important than Hayden. I agree with Alex. I think it's Javon Hargrave.
Oh yeah.
I think he's important. He's a must sign because with Joe Hayden, I hate to say it, if he don't want to transition to safety, and I don't know how many years he have left, I think Hargrave's a better investment for a dominant defensive line. He can play all interior positions to the 0 to 3 to 3 in 5 technique almost. I think he's more important to the defense just from what we want to do this year for overall rotation. And I think we might see more looks with him on the field. I just hope they really sign him. I think they will, or they might franchise him. I think they can work out a deal with him because I think he wants to be here and they show the interest. But I just don't really think that they can let him leave. I think you might honestly pay him that $9 million, just have one of the best defensive lines in all of football. To be honest, that's what I'm going with. And my last point is that it's on the Hall of Honor, and I didn't think this would be a big deal, but the Troy Polamalu snub is what everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
I thought honestly it was just for the Hall of Fame because he better be a first ballot Hall of Famer, first time Hall of Famer. But and Dave on a podcast, that Steelers Depot's podcast, a terrible podcast for anybody that doesn't know. He was talking about that the relationship with the Steelers, and you actually look at his tweets talking about that he actually wanted to leave Pittsburgh and go to Tennessee with the bow, but the Steelers, this is the one thing they do with their players, with Bradshaw, with even with Franco to a certain point they tried to with, and I think with Harrison, and I think with Hines, they try to control your career and tell you when you retire, and a lot of players don't like that. That's why Bradshaw has some resentment towards the organization. And I think James did too, on how I think the situation is down with theirs. And I think we did that with Hines Ward. We kind of forced him to retire. So I want your opinion on that and how the Steelers kind of try to control their destiny. Because that's the one thing the Steelers have backed up and said, we control where you play and when you play. That's one thing they always told their players. They even told Le'Veon Bell that if you're under contract or we have any rights over you, we control where you play and when you play. So I'm going to hang up and listen. Thanks.
Yeah, man, appreciate the call. A lot of good points. And then we're going to come to the last call in just a minute with area 803. But yeah, I think what you said at the end is probably it. You know, I love my Steelers, as you all do as well. It's a business, man. And I'm pretty sure in all of these organizations, and I'm not even going to make an excuse by saying that. I'm going to talk about our beloved Steelers. I'm sure it's something business-wise that, you know, that people don't agree with. Players included. It's a business. It sucks. But anytime you're dealing with a business on that magnitude and that type of money, and, you know, the Steelers have their way of doing business, and it has always been they don't give you no money up front. They make you earn it. They have a good reputation of paying it out. But I'm pretty sure that, like you said, we've seen some examples of it where they, you ain't going to do that. You know, we ain't allowing that. We get to dictate this and dictate that. Whether it's right or wrong, I think that's just it's the nature of the business, man. And I think that's all it is with the Polamalu thing, man. I mean, clearly everybody in the world knows that he needs to be in any Hall of Fame there is. You know, whether it's the Steelers, you know, Hall internally, the one that's in Canton. I mean, come on. I think it just has something to do with the tension between him and the organization, and I get it. You know, I get it. Yeah, I get why would you enshrine him or what have you, and you know he might not show up for the ceremony. I get it. And I think it is wrong. You know, let me go on the record and say that I think it's wrong if they're doing anything like where they're trapping players or what have you. But it's a business. I get it. You know, and it's shady things happen in business sometimes. So, especially when you're dealing with all that type of money. So there you have it. So last call of the night, man. Area code 803. You are live. What you got for us?
Doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
Oh, pretty good. Good. I'm sorry about typing in all caps there. I didn't know that. I wasn't reading it and I didn't understand what was going on. Very excited this year. I can't wait till the first game because that way we'll know what we have and for the camp battles and who's gonna be that person second in line. Right now, I'm so encouraged about the second level of depth behind the starters this year compared to in last few years. Now, it does scare me with T.J. Watt being out right now because that might be the thinnest position besides the inside linebacker. I'm hoping this year a guy like Cam Sutton can stay healthy because he's shown so much promise, but it hasn't shown on the field during the season. I mean, right now he's shown himself to be a practice warrior, but during the season he's kind of disappeared a little bit. So I'm hoping that guys like Cam Sutton can show up, and I don't know what Brian Allen in the corner. I love a big corner ever since guys like Mel Blount, but I'm just hoping that eventually he's going to step up and show that talent. They have some belief in him, so I'm hoping that he's going to show up. My question is last few years, with the Tomlin, he's gotten a 1-year extension. Last few years, they've been grumbling, especially after the Jacksonville game. The minority ownership of the team have been very unhappy with Mike Tomlin's performance as a coach. Do they have anybody you think that possibly that might be on staff that they might have succeed him or something? Because you can't get rid of a guy unless you have somebody who you have in mind to replace him with.
Yeah, That's
but
a
I
good
don't
question.
know how much weight does the minority ownership have, for as, Art Rooney listening to them to that level. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I definitely thank you for the call as well. And you bring up a good point. We, like you said, we've heard this for about a year or two now, and we definitely heard it after that Jacksonville loss, because let's face it, teams are judged on whether they win a chip. Teams like Pittsburgh. And even I've been one to say, well, not every team doesn't win every year. Yeah, but it's been a long time, right? And the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm not saying this, I'm not being biased, but we are upper echelon type of organization in terms of the rich history. They're winners. They've won 6 Lombardis, and we've won some within the last 20 years at least, within the last 15 years pretty much. So it's time for another one. That's the culture. We are a winning culture. Just like, listen, people might hate them, but just like the Patriots. Patriots are a winning culture. So if all of a sudden they go on a 10-year stretch when they're not even getting to the Super Bowl, I can understand if their fan base be like, hey now, what's going on? So I think that Jacksonville loss really hurt because we were in prime position right there. I mean, come on, man. We balled out that year. Balled out. Should have beat New England. They overturned Jesse's touchdown. Whatever. But we still ended up, 13-3? Balling. Get the bye. Prime position. You get you get to pay the Jaguars back for the loss they gave you earlier in the year. You get them at home off the bye. And you lose by 45 points. A 45-point, not margin, but you allow that team to put up 45 on you. After the offense balled out, Ben had a couple mistakes, but he balled out against the number 1 defense, put up 42 of our own points and still lost. And Coach Tomlin's pedigree is defense. Yeah, I can understand if I was a minority owner as much. Again, I like Mike Tomlin, but hey, everything comes to an end at some point. Sometimes people have run their course. If I was a minority owner, I'm pretty sure after that game I'd have been like, hey, listen here. I love the guy, but maybe it's time for us to look emotion. I might have said that too. So I wouldn't be surprised. And then after missing the playoffs last year and having all that stuff go on in the locker room, not me, but I'm sure there's people that blame Tomlin for that. So it's not shocking. And maybe that's why it's a 1-year extension and not any further than that. And it's kind of like, all right, we'll give you a crack at it for 3 more and we'll see what happens. So interesting, man. Very interesting. And yeah, I don't think I could disagree with any of that. So guys, we're pushing up on the time right now, man. We're actually sitting at 43 minutes and 8 seconds. So fire off your chats really quick. I'm going to shut us down at 45 minutes. That is our maximum. So fire off, guys. What you guys have to say. And while I'm waiting, I will say this. Kenya says minority owners have no power. Yeah, pretty much. I will say this, man. I wanted to comment on this earlier. Yes, Javon Hargrave is severely underrated. Javon Hargrave, to me, is... Think about how Casey Hampton was, as far as nobody ever talked about him. But even more than that, because I think he actually does more than what Casey was able to do in terms of even being able to pass rush. Not saying he's better. I'm just saying he's more of an athlete. He can do more things than Casey did. So I think it's the same situation where the nose tackle just doesn't get talked about, but he's balling out of control or doing his job, and yeah, he deserves to get paid. What do you think about our record will be this year? I'm going to be honest with you, man. This team is improving. I'm looking at like a 10-6. A 10-6 that will probably get us to the playoffs. Logan says, to get the most about Big Ben, you got to keep Tomlin, though. Big Ben era. Our secondary looks improved. I still think we need Hayden just as much or more than Hargrave. Okay, interesting. And we definitely do need that leadership in the secondary. What do you think about the naming rights to Heinz Field? Thank you, Smitty. I wanted to get to that. Crazy, man. Just when we get used to Heinz Field, I mean, we've gone through it. We've gone through it, when it used to be 3 Rivers. And so you know, I guess, and some of you guys, some of you younger guys, you know, I'll say if some of you guys are like 20 years old, that Heinz Field is pretty much all you probably pretty much remember. You know, I'm not an old guy, you know, but I'm old enough to have remembered Three Rivers when I was coming up. So, it sucks though. I just like the ring of that. I like that Heinz Field. I like the sound of that. So I don't know, what do we call it? It's probably going to be the UMPC Field or something. It's probably has some connection with that. Let's see. We're 45 minutes and 30 seconds. I'll take 2 more. Iron City Beer, Three Rivers. Yeah, they said that on the Terrible Podcast. That was funny. 2 more guys, then we're gonna shut her down. Kenya says Hargrave is not a traditional 3-4 tackle, which should have told all Steelers fans that the Steelers were becoming a hybrid defense. Yep, pretty much. You are right about that. And Claude White says Hampton was the most underrated player in the Steelers' last 20 years. Devin Bush, I believe, will be the defensive rookie of the year. Woo, y'all putting some lofty goals on him. It's possible. It's possible. You know, I think we're just looking at the rookie players. It's possible. You know, I just want to, I'll end it with this. I just want to see Devin Bush come in and be what we at least expect him to be first year. I'm not expecting him to have 12 sacks as a middle linebacker, even though he blitzed a lot in college. I'm not expecting him to have 150 tackles. I'm not expecting him to have 15 pass breakups. I'm not expecting him to have 7 interceptions. I just want him to have a solid season, you know, where we can look and say, okay, he's coming. And then in year 2, we can look at him the same way we looked at TJ last year and be like, okay, he's arrived. That's all I want to see from Devin Bush. You know, I'm going to keep my expectations low and let him, you know, undersell and overwhelm me. You know what I mean? I would love for him to end up with 100+ tackles and, force fumble. But I'm not going to put the lofty expectations on him. He's still a rookie. Not all rookies come in blazing into the NFL. They all don't do it. We've seen some do it, but they all don't have a Juju Smith-Schuster type of year when he was a rookie. And a good amount of that is because of Juju's ability. But we cannot sit there and act like Antonio Brown didn't contribute to that just being on the field. So we shall see. But this was a phenomenal show, guys, and not because of me. It's the interaction with you guys. Good amount of viewers tonight. I appreciate you guys. So before we wrap up, of course, we always got to let you know, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, man. You know, don't have to wonder when the show starts. If you subscribe and you cut on the notifications, you click that little bell, you'll know when the show starts. All right, because I plan to do more shows now. We're getting into the thick of things. I plan to do some Steelers reports. I promise y'all. I know I said that last week, but the only reason why I held off this week is because I knew we would get 2 solid days of pads in, and then they had their break on Tuesday. So I said, okay, I'll wait until Tuesday. But I'm going to try to check in from time to time and do some Steelers reports, any pressing news that we hear each day. And again, if you want to definitely hear reporting each day, make sure you're following those guys at Steelers Depot. They're doing nightly updates. You know, Alex Kazor is going to training camp. Valuable information there. But I plan to do the same thing. Probably not every night, but I might pop in from time to time. I don't know if there'll be streams, but I may do like a quick recorded video just to give my thoughts on a particular thing. And then, of course, we'll be continuing to do it on Tuesdays like always. But outside of that, that's all I got for you guys, man. If you feel the need to donate, just to let you guys know how you can do that. There's a $sign down at the bottom of the chat. Click that. The donation goes to YouTube and then comes to me. Or if you prefer it to be more direct or you're more comfortable outside of YouTube, check the description. There's a PayPal option as well as a Cash App option. But I know, I hate asking for those things, but I just have to say it. All right? Don't feel compelled to do any of that. But outside of that, man, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Let's be listening out for our boys. Let's get excited because we're getting closer and closer to the real deal, baby. Closer and closer. So, love you guys. Catch you guys later. Y'all be safe. God bless. Good night. And thank you for tuning in to Terrible Towel Tuesday. Peace.